My name is Claudette Jinks. I'm the Director of Strategic Advising Initiatives and Partnerships. Today is November the 13th, and the time is 10:07, where we're going to begin the meeting. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Before I get started, I wanted to formally welcome our newest ApplyTexas Advisory Committee members. They are Tessie Bradford, Katrina Brent, Jamie Hansard, Laura Esdale, Darren Newton, Mary Pascarella, Michael Sanders, and Miguel Vasilevsky. One of these days, I'm going to get it right, Miguel. Each of you will have an opportunity to formally introduce yourselves during the roll call here shortly. I also wanted to introduce a couple of additional guests that are joining us today. We have on the call or during this meeting, Laura Brennan, who is the Assistant Commissioner for College and Career Advising, Molly Gully, our Senior Director of Advising Strategy here with the Coordinating Board. And I also want to welcome Chris Melendez. He is with Deloitte and will be providing an update shortly. For today's meeting, I'm going to go ahead and take roll call of the committee members to confirm that we have a quorum. And so when I call your name, please go ahead and unmute yourself. Introduce yourself by providing your name, your title, and your institution. So I'm going to start at the top of the list with Tammy Adams.
Hello, my name is Tammy Adams, and I'm the Associate Vice President and University Registrar for Texas A&M San Antonio.
Thank you, Tammy. Brian Armstrong. Is he on the call today? I did not see Brian. Callie Blakely.
Hi, I'm Callie Blakely, the Director of Admissions at Kilgore College.
Thank you, Callie. Tessie Bradford.
Good morning. I'm Tessie Bradford, the Dean of Student Services at Lamar State College, Port Arthur.
Thank you, Tessie. Katrina Brent.
Good morning. I'm Katrina Brent. I am the Vice President of Enrollment Management and Marketing at Lamar University.
Thank you so much. Is Jamie Hansard on the call today? I don't think I saw her. Okay. Cynthia Hess.
Hi, I'm Cindy Hess, Director of Undergraduate Admissions at Tarleton State University.
Thank you, Cindy. Laura Isdell.
Hi, Laura Isdell, Dean of Admissions, Collin College.
Thank you, Laura. Maria Juarez.
Maria Juarez, Director of Enrollment Services at Amarillo College.
Thank you, Maria. Darren Newton.
Darren Newton, Associate Vice President for Strategic Enrollment at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley.
Thank you, Dara. Mary Pascarella.
Hi, I'm Mary Pascarella. I'm the Associate Director of Graduate Admissions at Sam Houston State University.
Great. Thank you, Mary. Do we have Catherine Bettis on the call?
I'm Catherine Perez, Dean of Enrollment Services for South Plains College.
Thank you, Catherine. Michael Sanders.
Hey, good morning. Michael Sanders, Associate Vice President of Enrollment at the University of North Texas.
Thanks, Michael. Christine Velasquez.
Hi, good morning. I'm Christine Velasquez. I'm the Director of Admissions and Recruitment over at the University of Texas at El Paso.
Thank you, Christine. Michelle Walker.
Good morning. I'm Michelle Walker. I'm the Director of Admissions Operations at Texas A&M University.
Thank you, Michelle. And then Miguel Vasilevsky.
Miguel Vasilevsky, University of Texas at Austin, Vice Provost of Admissions.
Thank you, Miguel. Lou Waterhouse.
Good morning. Lou Waterhouse, Director of Admissions and Enrollment, Lone Star College.
Thank you, Lou. Beverly Whitson Day. I don't know that I saw Beverly. No. Patty Young.
Good morning. I'm Patty Young, Dean of Admissions, Records and Testing at Dallas College.
Thank you, Patty. And I do not see our student representative, Priscilla Garza. Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Since it looks like we do have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and proceed with the meeting. Since we are meeting virtually, we will have some meeting guidelines that'll help guide us through today's meeting. For those of you who've been with us for a little while, you know, we're just, this meeting is a reminder that we are meeting, and this is an open meeting. It is being broadcast for the public and being recorded for later viewing. Please make sure that when you're not speaking that you mute your microphone. Like I mentioned, a quorum has been established. In order to keep the quorum, we must have our cameras on at all times. If you're not visible and are no longer, we are no longer in quorum and would have to stop the meeting. But I see that everyone has their cameras on, so thank you. There will be time for breaks as needed, but please be sure to return promptly to proceed with the committee business. To manage the committee discussion via Zoom, please unmute and identify yourself prior to speaking for the record. We also ask that you wait for one person to finish before you speaking. Otherwise, the comments can be muddled or unclear. Should the conversation become unmanageable, we will direct you to use that raise hand feature within the Zoom. It can be found somewhere on the top of the list. So then you'll please raise your hand and lower your hand after you've had time to speak. And then you will only use this feature if needed. For this meeting, when the committee will vote on items, motions will be voted on by raising your hand in the camera. And then you can say aye, you can take yourself off mute and say aye or no if you oppose. At the end of the meeting, please be aware that the meeting is still being recorded. So upon adjournment, we ask that you keep your comments limited so that staff can stop the recording. Do you have any questions before we move on? Perfect. Okay. I'm going to move to agenda item number 2, and this is the overview of ApplyTexas committee task. So just for the start of this meeting, I'm going to provide a brief overview of the ApplyTexas committee members' roles and responsibilities. In your emails, you should have received some meeting materials, and one of those meeting materials is a new member overview packet, which outlines the task set forth for this committee and the rules that provide oversight for the ApplyTexas system. As a reminder, the purpose of the ApplyTexas Advisory Committee is to discuss any recommended changes that may be needed to the application for the upcoming application cycle. The committee also addresses additional initiatives that help strengthen student participation and access into higher education. And as members of the committee, you are representing all institutions and users of the ApplyTexas system, not your specific individual institution. The task of the committee may include some technical and functional revisions to the Common Admission application and the ApplyTexas system. You also may be tasked with development of training materials for users. You are also tasked with recommendations on admission policy and other activities that are necessary for the maintenance of the ApplyTexas system. To perform these tasks, the committee typically will meet they're required to meet at least 2 times a year, but there might be more opportunities for more times to meet as needed. The committee will discuss operations and any recommended changes for the coming application cycle. The coordinating board will determine which recommendations from the ApplyTexas committee are pursued, and then those recommendations are sorted between those that need to go to a negotiated rulemaking committee because they impact admission policies regarding the common admissions application, and those that impact, they'll sort them between that, and then those that are impact based on operational aspects of the common application. I want to draw your attention to the major application events section on page 3 of that packet. This really outlines a tentative schedule for the committee events of the year. The committee begins to meet in the fall, like we are now, typically in October or November. It really just depends on committee member schedules. For committee meetings, I typically work with the co-chairs to develop the agenda for the meeting. The committee members will also have an opportunity to add agenda items that they want to add to the meeting. In October, the co-chairs work with me and coordinating board staff to compile a summary report of the committee work. And then they present this in October at our agency's committee and academic and workforce success meeting. The committee will meet in the spring as well, typically in April or May, again, depending on schedules. And then that's when you typically will finalize any recommendations that you want to send to production. Those that you want to add are sent to production. Second year members cycle off the committee, and then in the late April or May, the coordinating board will request nominations for new ApplyTexas Advisory Committee members. And that nomination goes out to chancellors and presidents. So then we get those nominations in, they're reviewed, and those that are selected for the committee will go to the board for approval. And then those specific selected new members are notified before the start of the next academic school year. So some of the committee also works with the TAC during the summer with TACRO. We often present at TACRO on the ApplyTexas updates as well. There have been times where the subcommittees will work, there are established subcommittees that will work on specific items that they want to address for that year. And sometimes they work closely with TACRO and also continue working with institutions during that time as well. That's a really high-level brief overview of the roles and responsibilities and the task of this committee, so that we level set and know what's set forth for you this year. Do you have any questions about these roles and responsibilities? Please raise your hand, or if you have any. Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and move to the next agenda item. The next agenda item is the decision and possible action to select a 2-year institution co-chair and a 4-year co-chair for the 23-24 and 24-25 academic years. Each year, the 2-year or 4-year co-chair rotates off the committee. Last year, both of the co-chairs did cycle off, and so I'll need to fill both the 2-year and the 4-year co-chair positions. We have this agenda item on the list so that you can seek these 2 positions. I would recommend that in order to retain at least one co-chair through the next year, that I recommend nominating a co-chair that is at the beginning of their first year on the committee and one that is serving their second year, just so that we have that fluid and consistency. So there's at least one co-chair represented during that transition or cycling. Just to give you an idea of what the co-chairs are responsible for, they are responsible for conducting meetings. So typically the co-chairs would work and they would be serving this role to conduct the meetings together, assisting in the coordination of any professional development, including any possible summer ApplyTexas meeting at TACRO, like I mentioned earlier, and then reporting to the board in October. The co-chairs will serve at least 1 or 2-year terms, depending on their membership year. The co-chairs will work closely with me and the coordinating board staff so that they can develop the ApplyTexas Advisory Committee agenda and meeting materials for each meeting. So with that said, you should have received this morning a list of all the members, committee members, and it would have been an email from me. Right now, if you'll take time to look at that list and see if you would like to, who you would like to nominate for your 2-year co-chair. So I'll give you a minute to look at that list. Is there anyone that did not receive that email this morning? Okay, so I'll let you take a look at the list of the 2-year representatives on the committee, and then I'll take nominations here shortly. With a shake of the head or a thumbs up, do you think we're ready to have some nomination for the 2-year co-chair? Yes, I'm seeing some head nods, so hopefully there will be nominations. Okay, I'll go ahead and open it up for nominations, and this is for the 2-year committee co-chair. So, can I get any nominations? Please unmute yourself. And you can nominate yourself if you'd like. I promise it's not that difficult.
This is Michelle Walker with Texas A&M. I'd like to nominate Laura Isdell.
Laura Isdell?
If she's willing.
I would be willing. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Laura. Are there any other nominations? Okay. Hearing none, I'll go ahead and proceed with the vote to nominate. So Laura Isdell has been nominated for the 2-year committee co-chair. By show of hands on your screen or an I will go ahead and take a vote. And see, do I have a vote for Laura Isdell? Okay, so let me see. I need to get a motion. I'm sorry. Do I have a motion to accept? So it was motioned by Michelle. And is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second.
Who's that? Is it Beverly? So Michelle, you motioned, Beverly seconded, and again, by a show of hands, let's go ahead and get that recorded. So I see, okay, I'm scrolling through, it looks like we have, everyone has agreed for Laura Isdell to be the 2-year co-chair. Thank you, Laura. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to now take nominations for the 4-year co-chair. Again, you are allowed to nominate yourself if you'd like to be the 4-year co-chair. Do I have any nominations? Or take a minute and I'll let you look over that list one more time. Okay. I'll go ahead and take, anyone want to come off mute and make a nomination for the 4-year co-chair position?
Well, I have one, but I hate to be the one who keeps nominating. So anyone else? Y'all want to speak up first?
Doesn't look like Michelle, so.
Okay, well, I would like to nominate Dr. Beverly Woodson Day, if she's willing. That gives us a 4-year and a 2-year and a 25 and a 24.
Dr. Woodson Day, do you accept the nomination?
I'll accept it.
Okay. Thank you so much. So we'll go ahead and vote. I have a Michelle Walker. Do I have a second for?
I'll second it.
Okay,
This is
Laura?
Laura Isdell. I'll second it.
Awesome. Thank you. Let me write that down really quick. Okay, so I have a motion. It's been moved by Michelle Walker and seconded by Laura Isdell for Dr. Beverly Woodson Day for the 4-year committee co-chair. Since we're virtual again, I'll just go ahead and see a show of hands. And if anyone opposes, please come off mute and say nay. It does look like I have everyone in agreement. So thank you both so much for volunteering your time to serve as co-chairs for this next year or two. And we'll move forward for the next agenda item, but know that you'll be in constant communication with me and our coordinating board staff so that we can walk you through that process and what the role will entail for the next meetings. So thank you so much. I'll move on to agenda item number 4, which is the approval of minutes from the February 2nd, 2023 and June 14th, 2023 meetings. These are the ApplyTexas Advisory Committee meetings that were held last academic year. In your meeting materials, you should have received those minutes for those meetings. So if you'll take a few minutes to review them, if you have not already done so, and please let me know of any changes or edits that might be needed. So I'll give you a few minutes to review those, and then we'll vote on approving them shortly. Is there anyone that needs a little more time to review the minutes? You can come off mute and say. Okay, hearing none, we can go ahead and vote to approve the minutes. So if you want to make a motion, do I have a motion from someone to approve both the February 2nd, 2023 and June 14th, 2023 minutes? Can I get a motion?
I move to approve the February and June minutes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I approved a second.
Thank you, Cindy and Dara. Okay. Those in favor, please raise your hand, and those opposed, please feel free to come off mute. So I see everyone's hand raised in agreement, so thank you. That motion does pass. So moving to agenda item number 5, this agenda item is an update on the progress of the new ApplyTexas. Just as a reminder for those of you that are joining the committee this year, I'm hoping that you know that for the last 6 months, the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board has been working with Deloitte to redesign the ApplyTexas system in order to better serve all users. So much work has been completed in that time, and we wanted to provide an update of the progress. So I'll now turn it over to my colleague, Chris Melendez with Deloitte, who'll provide an update on the new ApplyTexas system. And so, Chris, I don't know if you have any slides to share. Let me see.
I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Are you able to share?
I actually am not.
Okay, let me see what I need to do here. I think I need to make you a co-host. I'm going to make you the host, so you have that ability. And then if you'll pass it back to me when you're ready.
Absolutely. All right. Please let me know when you can see my screen. You should see a few boats.
Yes,
Maybe.
we see it.
Perfect. So I will go ahead and share my screen. There we go. So as Claudette mentioned, my name is Chris Melendez. I'm serving as a product manager with the Deloitte team that is supporting the coordinating board in this effort to migrate and redesign ApplyTexas. So as a little bit of additional background, obviously, as you all know, the current ApplyTexas system is managed and hosted by UT Austin. It is managed in an AWS environment, and moving forward with the redesign system that will be hosted and managed by the coordinating board in an Azure environment. So our team in the last update provided a few updates about the work we had been doing on migrating the existing system from AWS to Azure as a way of testing that process, ensuring that the system could be supported in an Azure environment, as well as working on designs for the updated system. So I know a few folks are joining the committee here for the first time, so I'll go through just a high-level recap of the discovery and design process, both from a design perspective and also from a content management perspective, and then provide a brief update on where we are today and what items we have completed. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to drop them in the chat or raise your hand. I probably won't be able to see them immediately, but Claudette, if you're able to help manage that, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Cool. So I'll go ahead and start with a small update on our qualitative research recap. So as part of the work up front, our team worked closely with the coordinating board members of this advisory committee and a broad spectrum of users to understand pain points with the existing application process and the current ApplyTexas. We also synthesize previously conducted research by Vidlit, so a series of interviews, videos, validation with the coordinating board to understand what it is that students and that users were looking to get out of ApplyTexas, what about the process could be improved, just to help set a foundation for the design period during which we worked with the coordinating board to actually redesign ApplyTexas. So from the student experience, the admin experience, and the counselor experience. Concurrently with that qualitative research, we also conducted a visual design discovery. So we worked to define a new brand identity for ApplyTexas that effectively reflects what we're all hoping to achieve with the system. And while we'll have more opportunities to see this design come to life, like we have the webinar coming up on Wednesday where Claudette will be walking folks through a little bit more detail what that student experience looks like. We'll give you a sense here of some of the work that was put into understanding how to transition the existing ApplyTexas into an updated brand identity, one that works for future designs, one that supports students effectively. And so we went through many rounds of iteration, both on the logo as well as just the overall brand and styling, which you'll see manifested throughout three experiences. But at a high level, you'll see it kind of starting here with the logo, which went through multiple rounds of iteration and reviews, which led to the development of this final ApplyTexas logo that you see here. This logo pulls inspiration from both the existing ApplyTexas logo as well as the Texas state flag. You'll see the color gradient in the star there that shows a range of new colors selected for the ApplyTexas brand is meant to symbolize a hopeful feeling and a bright future for students. So that is carried through in this updated style itself. Like I said, you'll see kind of how this manifests itself across the site as we move forward through this process. But we internally referred to this style that was selected as the expert. With the styling, which will be consistent through all three sites. Our goal is really to use a balance of boldness and approachability to position ApplyTexas, the coordinating board, and all of you as trusted experts in higher education, and really give students confidence in the system and the process, along the way. The screens that you'll see here are actually screenshots of the updated homepage on the left, as well as the updated dashboard on the right. Where students will be able to manage the completion of their application, both core questions, the school-specific applications themselves, as well as access resources to help them throughout the process. We'll go through those in more detail during the webinar on Wednesday, but just a little bit of a sneak peek into how those designs are manifesting themselves, or how that style is manifesting themselves in the designs, and will ultimately manifest themselves in the new system. Before I jump into the kind of more content-focused pieces, I just wanted to pause there and see if there are any questions about some of the work done on the discovery side of things and the initial kind of style guide, brand direction. And I know this may be familiar for some folks who have already seen it, but especially for new members of the committee.
Yeah, you can feel free to unmute yourself. We don't have the chat enabled in this meeting, so feel free to unmute yourself. I don't hear any questions, Chris.
All right. So then I'll go ahead and jump to the second piece here around some of the content flow. And so I know this is familiar, should be familiar to most folks, but another key component of the discovery and design period was understanding how students perceive and interact with the process of actually filling out an application in ApplyTexas, and how the system could be improved to help students throughout that process. So as you all are aware, at a high level in the current system, a student that creates who creates an ApplyTexas account is first prompted to fill out a profile, which consists of, I believe, about 9 steps, individual pages and steps that are each dedicated to a different topic area, and each of those that must be completed before moving on to the next step and onto applications. This profile information is then used to collect basic information about the student and help determine which application types they may complete. And then once they complete their profile, they're able to search for and start school-specific applications that consist of a combination of application type specific questions that are predefined, as well as school configured custom questions that may either be application type specific or major specific. And so the student will go through that process for each individual institution, and then proceed with the process of submitting the application to the institution. One thing we found in reviewing the core application type questions and working with members of this committee was identifying there's a myriad of common fields and common questions that span across the different application types. And so we worked to group and categorize those questions to help reduce redundancy and simplify the experience for students. So you'll see an example here of how a set of common fields may be grouped together into a cluster around parent and guardian information that is related to family information as a whole, and then falls under a higher level of organization of household. So that process led to the introduction of somewhat of a new concept or structure that we'll refer to here as core questions. And what you see here on the screen, core questions consists of a combination of what were previously the profile steps, as well as those common questions from across all application types. So those questions have been somewhat reorganized into 4 primary sections: the about you, household, education and testing, and activities and achievements, each with a set of directions and help content that you'll see an example of here on the right, that direct students to understand what to expect out of the questions and information that will be collected in that section, as well as maybe any information or documentation that they may need to have prepared in order to successfully fill out that portion of the application. And then each of those sections have further subsections to help a student walk through that process. So you'll see some of the examples here within About You across your name, contact information, background, etc. So one of the things, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a couple of slides, that we're hoping to introduce with this structure is having a single central location for students to fill out the primary pieces of their application that exists in one place, that only needs to be filled out one time, managed in one go or one place, so they don't need to be either copying or refilling in similar information each application. As well as providing a little bit more direction on how students actually can go about filling out that process. So with that, just kind of visually for that updated ApplyTexas flow, what that'll look like at a high level moving forward is that students will begin with what we're referring to as an application screener. So if you think about the profile as it exists today, Like I mentioned, there are a couple of questions or pieces of information that are gathered as part of the profile that help determine what application types a student can choose from. So that concept still exists. It is now just organized within what we're calling, within ourselves an application screener, but really manifests to the student as a welcome and onboarding flow. So a student who's creating an account will be presented with a welcome screen that will give them some background information on what to expect out of the overall process, what to expect out of ApplyTexas. And then they'll be guided through a series of short questions, direct questions that are primarily derived from existing profile questions that will help the student narrow down their eligible application types. This update takes into account all application types, but does include a step up front to help students applying for dual credit more easily navigate the process. So I know that's been a pain point in the past. So we've looked at the existing logic for how application types are determined, worked with members of the committee here to decide and understand how do we help guide a student through questions that are logical to them so that they can answer questions that are a little bit more straightforward and then be guided towards the appropriate application type or types, depending on their particular situation. So that logic has been updated, drafted, and reviewed with members of the committee and is now in the process of being implemented. So after a student completes the screener, they'll be presented with a list of their eligible application types. In some cases, that'll be a single one, and other cases, that'll be more than one, depending on their particular set of answers. Questions and answers, and then that will guide them towards the next step in the process. So once they complete the screener, then they will be able to access the core questions that we were just reviewing. And those core questions, like I said, are a combination of what currently comprises the profile, as well as the application type specific questions. That'll all exist within a central location. And then for those items or those questions that were not common across all application types, but were part of the core application type question set. If a student is eligible for that application type, those will also be layered into the core questions. So for the purposes of a student, they are only seeing a single set of core questions. They're not needing to jump around to different parts of the application to fill in those different components. And they're able to go through that process once for across all applications rather than having to repeat that process for each. Separately, a student can initiate a school application in which they will answer the school-specific application or school-specific questions, excuse me. But before a student can submit their application to the institution, there'll be a check done to ensure that all required fields, both across the core questions as well across the application-specific questions, to ensure that those required questions have been entered, and if not, a student will be provided guidance on how to go back and answer those questions that remain either unfilled or inadequately completed. So I know, one of the pain points we heard a lot through discovery, especially from students, but also from institutions, was that students because they were required to fill out every question within a given step or screen before moving on to the next, students would often, put in dummy data, put in, ABC, move on to the next thing just to get to the next page, and oftentimes either have trouble going back and understanding where they had filled out or forgetting and actually submitting pieces of the application that were not completed. So one of the key things that will be changing around that setup is that students will be able to actually move around steps of the application, fill in information as they have available to them without their progress being impeded by those validations during that process. But before they're able to actually submit, then that validation will take place. So we'll be preventing students from submitting applications that are incomplete, but also allowing them to have a little bit more flexibility to move around and fill in the application as they're able, if they have information ready to enter for some items, but not others, they can do that without their progress being stopped. So the structure here that you see, they'll go through that core questions, then they'll be able to initiate any of the applications to individual schools as they'd like, fill out and submit those individual questions for those individual applications as they are ready. And they will still be able to submit those applications individually, but the core questions will live in one place. So side by side, I think pretty straightforward. So taking out the application type specific questions from the school applications and moving them into that core questions area. But overall, the flow remains the same in that they'll go through the screener. They'll have that kind of filtering work. They'll still be able to search for applications. The core questions will be a single central location, and then they will be able to initiate, proceed with filling out and submit individual school applications as they are ready and able. So a couple of just kind of high level summary items around some of the updates here to the applications when it comes to the core questions specifically. The 130 structural changes seems like a big number, but ultimately what it amounts to is just a reconfiguration of how some of those questions from the application type and profile fit together into that core questions concept. And are reorganized into more intuitive subsections that you see previewed there on the right. A series of language updates looking at how certain questions are being asked to improve clarity, remove redundancy, and improve scannability for users that are navigating through each cluster of questions. So one of the things you'll see in the webinar on Wednesday is, especially for those set of questions, think like parent guardian information, where there are multiple fields, being asked about a individual topic, right? Name, first name, last name, email address, etc. That the way those are organized into what we refer to as repeater fields allow for a improved scannability, understanding of what information is going to be asked for each kind of combination of those fields and how those manifest themselves within the steps here in the core questions. Also gone through a big effort of drafting help articles to support students throughout this process. So obviously, as a student is going through the application process, there is a lot of information that is being asked of them, a lot of times for the first time for students who may not understand why a particular question is being asked, what a particular question means, what the implications are of answering those questions. And so we've worked to establish a structure that allows us to add that help information readily to students as they're going through that process. So you'll see here an example of what that help drawer may look like. This is designed, so it's not the actual local screen, but for example, this question around race, provide more context on what that question is, what examples of those answers are, and further explanation of their responses as guidance for students that lives in the page without obstructing their ability to go through that process. So the goal really here is to help reduce confusion for students. And so we really focused on the questions that seem to have the highest risk of confusion and focus on building out help articles for that. But that pattern will exist in the system and will be something that the advisory committee and the coordinating board can use in the future as well, as either more questions are added, changes are made, or lessons are learned from students throughout the application process to further tweak or build out help content over time. So I'll pause there before going into an update on the current status of the project. Just wanted to pause there and see if there are any questions or comments on what I just walked through on the core questions and help content here.
Anyone have any questions? Feel free to unmute. I'm seeing some nods that everything seems to make sense. Okay, we can go ahead and proceed, Chris. Thank you.
So then current status. As we discussed previously, the plan is for the redesign ApplyTexas to go live in spring 2024. and we'll continue to support users through the ongoing application cycle for the academic year 24-25, in addition to the new cycle for the academic year 25-26. So right now, our team is really in a period of focused development. Our design period has ended, and so really heads down on just trying to make progress on building out the redesign of ApplyTexas. Obviously, with the fact that the system will be supporting both the ongoing cycle, which is currently live in the existing ApplyTexas system, as well as future cycles. We are, working on, or we started with migrating the existing system and have started to work and build off of that. And so you'll see there is a lot of effort has been taken to maintain, where it makes sense, consistency with the existing system, while making noticeable improvements to the experiences across the board, but especially focus on the student experience. So like I mentioned, the design period has concluded. We worked, leveraging user-focused research, collaboration with SMEs, both within the committee and externally, and regular usability testing throughout that design period to create a set of updated designs that look to improve the ApplyTexas experience both for students, for administrators, and for high school counselors. Like I mentioned, we're currently in a development and testing period. So we've both in concluding the design period as well as successfully migrating the code from the existing system and validating kind of conceptually that migration from AWS to Azure. The team is heads down on the development and testing of the redesign ApplyTexas student experience. So we're focused first on the student experience, but we'll be continuing to work through that, as well as working on updates to the admin portal and the counselor suite. In terms of what's next, so obviously we'll be continuing to build out the student admin and counselor experiences for ApplyTexas based on those updated designs. We're also collaborating with TA to build out an ApplyTexas TREX integration to support student-initiated transcript requests. And then we'll be working on preparing more detailed technical requirements and rollover plan, and the rollover plan to ensure that all of you and all of the institutions that use ApplyTexas are prepared for the cutover next year. But at a high level, things to expect upcoming in early December. We'll be having another webinar after the student experience walkthrough on Wednesday to talk through at a high level what those expected technical changes are. You can imagine, we just talked through the core questions. That is a big piece of this. So we'll kind of talk through what are the different areas where there may be changes that need to be accounted for or planned for, so that all the institutions understand what is coming down the pike. In February, we'll be working with the coordinating board on providing more details on the application rollover plan for the current cycle, as well as more details on the overall technical requirements and just general launch for later in the year. And then I know working with the coordinating board on additional communications and webinars around training, onboarding, support services, and related topics in the spring leading up to the launch, which is planned for May 2024 for the existing cycle. And then obviously with the new 25-26 academic year cycle starting July 1st, 2024. So that's at a high level. There will definitely be plenty more details and communications and webinars to come that you'll be hearing from Claudette and team on. But we're excited to continue to move forward with development and testing here, and really help bring this experience to life.
Chris, do you sorry, let me start over. Do you anticipate moving all of our custom questions into the new app, or will we need to rebuild those?
Yeah, our expectation is that we'll be migrating the existing configurations and settings over to the new ApplyTexas. So as in general, right, the goal here is to have continuity between the existing experience and the updated experience while taking steps to improve the whole the overall thing. So when we think about custom questions, application settings, all of that, the plan is to have that migrated along with user base, application data, et cetera. So goal is to be able to cut over and have an operational system that will still require some updates, right? Like I think there are going to be a couple of settings that will need to be changed or managed. But at a baseline, yes, that is the expectation.
Thank you.
Of course. Claudette, that's all I had. So if there are any questions, happy to either take them now or take them offline. But appreciate everyone's time today and your partnership throughout this. Looking forward to next steps.
Chris,
Thank
will
you. Go ahead.
Will the December update for technical issues include like upload from the application to our banner system and in conjunction with the TCC team?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I cut out there for a second.
Will the December update include any information regarding our banner to TCC for upload of the application to banner? I know we have several different systems within the state, but just wondering for the IT team and upload issues.
So I'll have to connect Claudette probably offline on that topic specifically. I don't think we expected to be talking through that in December. I think for early December, the goal would just kind of be talking high level about what types of changes to be expected from the updated ApplyTexas, because I know a lot of us who have worked more closely with the design obviously take some of those things for granted, but want to make sure we're communicating the types of changes like the core questions, et cetera, that we'll need to plan for. So things like that can be identified and talked through in more detail and get into more detail early next year.
Thank you.
Cindy, if you want to send me an email just so that we're noting these types of questions, or if anyone else has any other questions similar, just so that we know what the needs are in order to prepare any other either communications or other training or webinars to address those. Okay. I think, did you hand over the hosting back to me, Chris?
Yes,
I don't think I need it. You can do that, that's fine. But thank you so much, Chris, for that overview. Like I mentioned, any other questions you have, feel free to email me. I work very closely with our Deloitte team to get those answered. As Chris mentioned, there is a scheduled webinar on Wednesday, November 15th. We have lots registered. I think the last time I showed, we had about 450 registrations that will be joining us on Wednesday. I'll be going over a high-level overview of the application portal and walking through those different sections in more detail that Chris went over. Chris will be available to answer additional questions as we can get to them, but we'll continue to collect and track those questions and share that information out to you all throughout the time. And as Chris showed you, we do have plans for additional webinar series that'll touch base on those technical changes, the application rollover process. Some of these webinars may be either shorter or longer, just depending on the content of the webinar. So, but we will have those additional webinars. There will also be a series of communications that will happen as we get down to the launch. So please be expecting those as well. The communication that we're providing is through the ApplyTexas listserv that we have with currently with the UT ApplyTexas team. So that's where those communications are going, is to that listserv. If you have others that you want to add to that listserv, please feel free to email me as well. So before I move on to the next agenda item, any final questions for our guest, Chris? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Chris. I will go ahead and move on to agenda item number 6, which is the discussion on new proposed changes to ApplyTexas forms or procedures. This item is typically allows the committee to discuss any recommendations to the board and ways to improve the ApplyTexas application and procedures. This feedback that we've been receiving over this last year has been currently incorporated into the new design of the ApplyTexas system. So while in development, the team will continue to collect and document any other recommended changes that we've received, and we will discuss those after the launch of the new ApplyTexas application in July. So I just wanted to let you all know that for now, we have been incorporating any design changes, but if there's anything that we get from here until the launch, we'll document those, and then we'll continue having and preparing for those possible changes in the next application cycle. Any questions about that?
Maria from Amarillo College, I have a question. Is there a place where we can see any proposed questions or recommendations that have not been, that are currently being worked on?
Yes, so we're collecting those now, and as we're sort of working through this new process, I'm going to be working with our internal teams to establish that process of collecting them. Right now, I have them all. I don't have the way that we're a process to inform on how we're going to continue collecting these. That's right now something I can share. We're developing that process currently internally so that we can get that information out to our stakeholders and other institutions so they'll know the process and making those recommendations, similar to how we would do with the UT ApplyTexas team. So it's while we're in that phase, we will continue to document and track those. I do have a list if you would like for me to share that with you. But we're just sort of tracking some of those right now. It's a good question, but we'll get that out to you as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. The next agenda item is the discussion on next meeting dates. As I mentioned, in the past, the committee has met anywhere between 2 to 4 times a year. Really, that was when there were active items that the committee would need to discuss and move to production. As we've already collected some of those feedback, and that's been incorporated into the new ApplyTexas system, like I said, we'll continue tracking that. But for this committee, at minimum, you're to meet 2 times a year. This is our initial meeting. We anticipate having another meeting in the spring. So if you're ready to think through maybe another date that's coming up for the spring that you'd like to meet, or dates that we might consider staying away from, that's another time. That's another reason why we'd like to discuss at this time, just so we know in planning for our next meeting that we know what dates to stay away from, or if we can come to an agreement on a date for the next meeting that will happen this spring. Typically that's in February, sometimes in April, just depending on the schedule of this committee. So do you all want to decide on a next meeting date, or would like to let me know what dates to not schedule meetings? We typically stay away from March because we know that's spring break. But if there's any dates in February that you'd like for us to consider for the next meeting, just so you're aware, please feel free to let me know.
Can I throw out the last week of February as a possibility?
Sure.
Hi, this is Mary Pasquarella at Sam Houston. I'd also prefer a February meeting if possible.
Okay. Anyone else?
Maria Amarillo College, February is a good month for us as well.
Great. Are we leaning more towards the end of February or, yes, I'm seeing some head shakes. Great. Okay, well, what we typically do for those of you that are new to our advisory committee, we'll be sending out an email. My administrative assistant, Deanna Foos, you should have been receiving some email communications from her on my behalf. She typically sends a poll out to the committee with a couple of dates, just because February seems like a long ways away. We don't know when, what to expect between now and then, but we'll start sending a poll just to say, these are some of the dates we want to consider. We will also take into account whether you want to meet in person or virtually. So we know that there's some cost associated with travel to come to Austin for those meetings. So we take that into consideration as well. But that email that comes for when we start planning for the spring meeting, that will include whether or not you want to meet in person. And we will have options to meet virtually as well, like we do now. And then also confirm some dates so that we ensure that we have a quorum. So this is very helpful in planning for the next meeting. The coordinating board strives to coordinate the meetings with the committee members as early as possible. So this is really helpful. And so, like I said, we'll be sending out that communication at that time. We are now getting to agenda item number 8, and that is adjournment. Before I ask for anything to adjourn, are there any other pending questions or things that you would like for me to think about when we start planning for the next meeting? Any agenda items that you want to add or things you want to hear about in the next meeting in the spring? By that time, we'll be further along. We'll have, I think in our next webinar series, the application rollover will be happening at that point. So we'll be keeping in close coordination with you for that. But any other agenda items that you might want to hear about? Okay, hearing none, I will work closely with our new 2-year and 4-year co-chair, Laura and Beverly. And so we will work together on creating that agenda when it gets closer to the meeting time. So I'll now move to agenda item number 8, and that's adjournment. So this concludes the business of the ApplyTexas Advisory Committee for November 13th, 2023. If there's no further discussion, do I have a motion for adjournment? Please unmute. Y'all want to stick around for some more?
Make a motion.
Okay, I have Mary Pascal. Mary, how do I say your last name? I want to make sure I get it right.
Pascarella.
Okay, I think I had that right the first time. Thank you, Mary Pascarella. Do I have a second?
I move to second.
Patty Young. So I have a second from Patty Young. Okay, members, do I have any members? Those say, raise your hand, say aye. If you agree, opposed, say no. Okay, looks like any opposed? Okay, the time is now 11:10. The motion passes and this meeting is adjourned. I want to thank you all for your time today on the meeting. Please feel free to email me with any additional questions or items that you can think of offline. But I appreciate your time today and we look forward to working with you over the next several months. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.